Hello everyone, and welcome to the application walkthrough video for the Broward MPO's Complete Streets and Other Localized Initiatives Program, or CSLIP. My name is Connor Campobassoc, and I am the CSLIP Manager.
And my name is Anthea Thomas, and I am the Public Outreach Manager for the Broward MPO.
In this video, Anthea and I will be going over the new CSLIP application step by step. Since we're going to be covering each question individually, you may want to skip around to sections you may have questions about. For this reason, we included some key timestamps of the video so you can more easily locate the sections that you are interested in.
Now, before you get started with the application, you will want to review all the documentation that is available on the CSLIP website. To do this, open a browser and type in browardmpo.org. Once on the homepage, go to the mega menu and select What We Do, then select CSLIP, located directly under the Major Functions section. This will take you to the CSLIP homepage. This page has some general information regarding the program. However, to find the information needed for the application, click on the Application Information tab to the left of the screen. On this page, you will be able to download all of the relevant information pertaining to the application. We recommend downloading the application copy and typing in your answers into the document prior to starting the application. This will help you get organized, finish quicker, and if anything were to happen while filling out the application, you would still have all of your answers saved.
In order to get to the application itself, go to the CSLIP homepage. On the left-hand side of the screen, you will find the Application tab. Please note that this tab will only appear when the application is open. Click on the tab and this will take you to the Application Introduction page. This is where you'll find some general information about the application, including documents needed, deadlines, and instructions. Once you are ready to proceed to the application, click on the Application button located towards the bottom of the screen. Those who have applied in previous cycles, please note that there is no need to create an account this year.
For those of you who have filled out an application in the past, you will notice that it already looks quite different. We are using a new platform to help make the CSLIP application more user-friendly and to help collect better data regarding your application. It will allow us to more easily make changes on the fly to further improve the application process. One major change is that all the sections have been separated into different pages to help keep things organized. You can see what page you're on by looking at the page count at the bottom of the screen. Please note that you will need to fill out each required question before you can move forward to the next page. Another change is that certain questions are now dynamic and allow for additional questions to appear depending on the answer that you provide.
Now looking at the first page, you can see a list of items to be aware of and a single question at the bottom. I'll just be briefly going over the list of items, but as you can see with item number 1, it is important to read all instructions very carefully. For those who have applied for CSLIP funding in the past, the second item is just to inform you that the document upload questions have been grouped together and moved to the back of the application. This is just to help make the application a little easier to fill out and helps keep things in the back end organized. The third item is to inform you that the required questions will be marked with a red asterisk and character limits will be denoted in a sky blue color for short answer questions. The fourth item is to let you know that the application works best on Google Chrome, but you should be able to complete it with most modern browsers. Just do not use any browsers that are no longer supported by their creators, for example, Internet Explorer. The last item here is to inform you of a known issue with the application. Sometimes the application may change pages if you click and drag the mouse horizontally. This is due to the application's compatibility with mobile devices. This should be fixed in the future, however it may be something you'll have to keep in mind when filling out the application for Cycle 3. Now that we've covered the introduction items, we can move to the first question. This question simply asks if you have read through all of the available information regarding the application. Since we have, we are going to select yes here, and when we do so, you can see a little note pop up saying that we can move forward. If you select no for this question, you will still be able to move forward, however, you will receive an error when you go to submit the application. With that, we will move forward to the second page of the application.
Now that we are on the second page of the application, we can fill out all the general information about our project. First is the project's name, which for this example will be called Complete Streets on CSLIP Street. As you can see from the project's name, this will be a Complete Streets project, so for the second question on this page, we will go ahead and select the Complete Streets option, since this will best describe our project. Next is a brief description of the project. It does not have to be detailed, since there is more specific questions later in the application that will cover project details. It can be as simple as construct sidewalk and bike lanes along CSLIP Street. The next question is regarding the agency that you are applying on behalf of. This question autofills based on what you type. For example, if I were from the village of Lazy Lake, I could either start typing the word village, lazy, or lake, all of which bring up the correct agency. Alternatively, you could use the drop-down arrow and select the correct agency. However, the agency that we are applying on behalf of is not listed. In this instance, we will go to the bottom and select Other. This is the first example of a dynamic question. If you select Other, a new question will appear asking which agency. You will most likely not need this question, but it shows how certain questions can be hidden if irrelevant to your application. The next question asks if your agency will be submitting multiple applications. If yes, a new question will appear asking if you prioritize them via resolution. The following question asks if the application is being filed as a joint application. If so, a new question will appear asking to list the partner agencies. For this example, we will just select No in the previous question.
This next page is just for the applicant's information. For the first question, you will type in your name, and the second question, your email. This email will also be the email that receives the confirmation when the application is submitted. But say I'm the town's grant writer, and a different person will be assigned as the PM for the project. You will then select No in the third question, which will allow you to designate a main contact moving forward. So let's say that Anthea will be the PM for the project. I would then put her name and her email in the space provided.
Page 4 is where you will be entering the location and limits of your project. The first question asks for the facility name. This question is pretty straightforward for our project since it's only on one facility, CSLIP Street. If your project is occurring on a few different facilities, you can list the facility names here, just separated with commas. If your project has many locations, say a neighborhood sidewalk network project, it may be best to simply type various and make sure to include a detailed map. The same rules apply to the second question regarding the limits. For our project, it will once again be straightforward since it's only one set of limits. But if you have a few different sets of limits, try to list them all. However, if there are too many, just make sure the map that you upload displays them very clearly. The third and final question on this page is to mark the project's general location. Just follow the instructions that are listed on the screen. This is not used in part of the ranking process, but it will assist in evaluation of applications.
Next is the Eligibility Verification section. This section is to make sure that the project meets certain requirements necessary for the project to even be considered. The first question on this page is regarding the facility's type. Since CSLIP Street is a roadway, we're going to select that option here. However, if your project does not fit within one of these two categories listed, you can select Other and type the description of the facility. The second question asks if your agency owns a facility. If you are proposing construction on any segment that is owned by another agency, you will select the No option. If you do so, another question will appear asking what agency owns the facility. If the agency involved is not FDOT or Broward County, you will select the Other agency option. The next question asks if the project can be constructed within the constraints of the right-of-way. Since the improvements on CSLIP Street can be constructed within the right-of-way, we are going to select Yes for this question. Next is a question to make sure that the O&M will be covered if the project were to be programmed. If another agency has agreed to fund the O&M, select No, and then type in the name of that agency. The final question on this page is regarding community support. It is important that agencies applying for funding communicate to the public not only the improvements, but the impacts as well. In this question, you will describe how community support for the project was gathered and evaluated. Later in the application, you will upload all the documentation related to your outreach efforts.
In this section, you will be filling out the description of the project. This section can be completed easiest if you have your typical sections available to you. So now, looking at our typical sections, I know that our right-of-way is 80 feet. The existing number of travel lanes is 2 and will remain the same, so I will put 2 in the third question. The road's existing lane width is 12 and will be reduced to 11 in order to accommodate for the bike lanes. The total existing road width is 24 feet, and with the inclusion of the bike lanes, the width will change to 36 feet. The posted speed limit will remain at 35 miles per hour. And finally, there will be no changes to the curb and gutter.
The project elements section has been broken up into different pages: selection and description, located on pages 7 and 8 respectively. These two pages are linked together in that the selections made on page 7 will appear as description questions on page 8. And I'll go ahead and show you what that means. So now looking at page 7, we're going to go through and select all the different elements that apply to our project. So in this instance, for CSLIP Street, I will select ADA, bicycle lanes, crosswalks, pedestrian lighting, and sidewalks. After all of the items are selected, you can then go to page 8. Now that we're on page 8, you will see all of the elements that you selected on page 7 with text boxes underneath. These text boxes are where you'll detail the types of improvements related to each element. Some of the descriptions may have some overlap, but it is best to provide more information in most cases. It is also a good idea to take a look at the list of elements prior to starting an application in order to plan out your selection.
The 3 questions on page 9 are short write-ups where you can describe what problem your project solves, why the project was the best solution, and how the project fulfills the goals of the Commitment 2040 Long-Range Transportation Plan. This is another section where it may be best to type your answers into the application copy and just paste them in when you start the application.
Page 10 is where you'll enter in the costs associated with your project. This section should be relatively straightforward, given that you've probably already done your cost estimates. The first question is where you'll type in the total project cost. This will be the final number on the cost estimate form, including local funds. For CSLIP Street, this will be $1.8 million. The second question is just the construction cost of the project. This is the number that the application funding cap is based off of. For our project, this will be $1.5 million. The final question is the estimated O&M cost for the project. We estimate that the project will have an annual O&M cost of about $30,000.
Page 11 is the document upload section that Connor touched on in the beginning of the video. This is where you will submit all of your supporting documentation. It's important to read through the instructions for this page very carefully. There are some restrictions on file types and sizes. For example, the application has a file size limit of 10 megabytes and only PDFs have been tested. There is also a known issue with long file names. Please keep the file names less than 30 characters long. If you exceed the limit, you will not immediately receive an error. However, you will receive one when you go to submit the application. It will also help if you create a new file on your computer and store copies of the documents you plan to submit. That way, once you locate the folder in the first question, it should start defaulting to that folder location for the following questions. It will also help you keep organized so that you can finish the application as quickly as possible. So now, looking at the first question, you will see that it is asking for a project location map. To upload a file, please click on the button marked "Click here to upload image file." When the File Explorer window opens, before locating your file, make sure that the file type option in the bottom right of the window is set to all files and not to image files. The application will sometimes default to image files, causing PDFs to be hidden in the File Explorer window. After this is complete, you may select the desired file and select Open. It is important that you do not drag a file into the window. This may cause a new web page to open. Depending on the browser you're using, This may result in your application being completely cleared. You can view the full list of questions on the application checklist available on the CSLIP website.
The final page just contains one question, confirming that you filled out the application to the best of your ability. Since we have, we're going to go ahead and select Agree. A note will appear with some information regarding if you receive an error when you select the Submit button. If you do not receive an error, this means that your application has been submitted. After you submit the application, you should receive a confirmation email. This email will be automatically generated and you should receive it within an hour. If you do not receive the confirmation email, please contact us to make sure that your application went through.
Thank you for watching. We hope that you found this information helpful. We look forward to working with you and our partners to implement your projects in the near future.
Please feel free to take a look at all the information available on the CSLIP website. And if you have any additional questions about the application process, please feel free to reach out to me. My information will be on the screen.